good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then we're available on demand. And we're on demand on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor Adrianna Tender. Adrianna currently works as the program coordinator with Trans Inclusive Group and is the owner of Tender Loving Care Trans Mentoring. She serves on the National Board of Governors of the Human Rights Campaign and is on the board of directors for the Dolphin Democrats and Black LGBTQ plus Liberation. Welcome, Adrianna.
In the gay agenda, South Florida. Equality Park After Dark at the Pride Center every Thursday, the third Thursday. Equality Park After Dark will host food trucks, handmade crafts, art, and live music in the newly redesigned Chuck Nicholas and Mark Turner Garden Plaza at the Pride Center. This will be on the third Thursday of every month from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Pride Center at Equality Park is a nonprofit organization and an inclusive home that celebrates, nurtures, and empowers the LGBTQ plus communities and friends and neighbors in South Florida. This is a free event and no tickets will be required. Shop till you drop while having fun with your friends and community members. For more information, you can visit pridecenterflorida.org.
Let's welcome anchor Glen Weinzimer. Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, which will be celebrating its 20th anniversary, November 17 and 18, which has raised almost $15 million. He also owns Bona Italian Restaurant in Wilton Manors. In the past 6 years, Bona has raised more than $60,000 to help local organizations. Welcome, Glen.
In the gay agenda, South Florida. Drag brunch at Alibi every Saturday. Enjoy bottomless drinks, savor multiple delicious brunch items, and watch the fierce cast of drag queens work the stage all brunch long. Every week at Saturday Drag Brunch at Georgie's Alibi Monkey Bar in Wilton Manors. Alibi is a longtime local gay hangout known for serving strong drinks and snacks amid festive surroundings. Hosted by legendary TP Lords, with new special guest queens every single week, along with music by local fave DJ Sushiman. This is a must-attend event for everyone. The Saturday brunch seating begins at 2:30 p.m. This brunch will cost you just $35, while liquid brunch is for $25 only. Don't miss the fun. For further details and tickets, visit alibywiltonmanors.com.
Let's welcome anchor Amy McGrotty. Amy is known as the real estateologist. She works alongside John Castelli and Rod Blacklock at Castelli Real Estate Services in Wilton Manors as part owner and residential and commercial sales. Welcome, Amy.
In the gay agenda, South Florida, Sweet Spot, all-white party for women-loving women on August 18th. Hamburger Mary's of Wilton Manors is hosting another event for the community, and this time the theme will be an all-white party with a touch of gold. Marley Entertainment will be organizing this event named Sweet Spot for Women Loving Women. The event, which will start at 10 p.m., features sound by DJ AC. Expect food, drinks, and hookah, too. The tickets start at $10. For more details and ticket purchases, visit marleyentertainment.com.
Well, let's welcome Evyn Almanzar. Evyn is a trans student at JP Taravella High School, High School, where he is soon starting his junior year, i.e., he's 16 years old. He has been publicly speaking out as an advocate for mental health and queer student rights since age 12. Welcome, Evyn.
In the gay agenda, South Florida, Latino Salud presents Mental Health Day, August 18th. Let's invest time to listen, support, and improve our mental health and that of the people around us by attending the Mental Health Day event organized by Latino Salud in Manors Lanes Bowling and Sports Den Pub in Fort Lauderdale. The event will take place on August 18th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Latino Salud is a non-clinical safe haven for gay Latinos, people living with HIV, and anyone who identifies as transgender. This celebration is a part of the monthly conversation with Sai Giansanti, Inc. You can visit any of Latino Salud's locations for confidential, free HIV and STD testing, free condoms and lube, and help for anyone who wants access to PrEP, HIV treatment, or support programs. The event is open to every young adult from 18 to 29. Further information on the event is available on latinosalud.org.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, August 8th. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Visit Lauderdale invites you to celebrate the Venice of the Americas with the International Boat Show. No matter the time of the year, Greater Fort Lauderdale always has fun in store, from a mouth-watering, month-long dining event to a 5-day luxury boat show. There are plenty of annual events and festivals sure to delight everyone under the sun. If you're wondering what is on the horizon in 2023, Visit Lauderdale is inviting enthusiasts and partygoers to Fort Lauderdale for the International Boat Show. Owned by Marine Industries Association of South Florida and produced by Informa Markets, the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show is the largest in-water boat show in the entire world. This year, it is returning for its 64th year, covering nearly 90 acres and 3 million square feet of exhibit space. It will start on October 25th and go through the 29th. This 5-day event will show locations at 7 venues throughout Fort Lauderdale, including the Broward County Convention Center, Bahia Mar Yachting Center, Hall of Fame Marina, Las Olas Marina, Hilton Fort Lauderdale Marina, Pier 66 Marina, and Super Yacht Village at Pier 66 South. The show will feature educational seminars, a super yacht village, aquatic demonstrations in the Aqua Zone, and more. The annual gathering provides marine enthusiasts an opportunity to explore the performance, design, technology, and architecture of 1,300 plus boats. Find out more at visitlauderdale.com. Visit Lauderdale, everything under the sun. Well, you know, I've been to many boat shows. I have never been to this one. And I can't believe it because it's the largest in the world. Just the mere statistics. 7, I believe, different venue locations, 3 million square feet of display space, 1,300 boats. I understand boats is as expensive as like $70 million. Wow. You can tour. You would never have the opportunity to do that. It's very funny because I have been to the French Riviera and they are really considered among the greatest boating capitals of the world. But we have Fort Lauderdale, which is even greater.
Okay, next, I've been to the boat show. It's a lot of fun. Okay, next, let's queer up religion. Pope welcomes LGBTQ plus to church, but says rules must be followed.
The church is open to everyone. Then there are rules that regulate life within the church, and someone who is inside and follows the rules cannot administer sacraments. This to say it in a simplified way, like you said. This does not mean it is closed. Everyone meets God in their own way within the church, and the church is mother, and it guides everyone in their own way.
The church teaches that same-sex attraction is not sinful, but same-sex acts are. Since the start of his papacy, the 86-year-old Pope has faced a delicate balance between appealing to more liberal believers without upsetting conservatives, including giving more high-ranking roles to women, who the church teaches cannot become priests because Jesus chose only men as his apostles. While he supports legislation that gives some same-sex couples rights in areas like pensions, he has stopped short of changing teachings that urge chastity for those with same-sex attraction. Francis's comments came as he took questions during his customary freewheeling post-trip press conference as he flew back to Rome from the Youth Festival in Portugal.
The Pope has said the Catholic Church is open to all, including LGBTQ plus people, but said some rules must be followed. Speaking with reporters on Sunday, August 6, during a return flight from Lisbon to Rome following the World Youth Day Catholic Festival, 86-year-old Pope Francis was quizzed on whether the church is truly open to everyone. During the festival, the pontiff had said the church was open to everyone, a message asked by a reporter as possibly inconsistent with the statement as women and gay people are barred from certain sacraments. Women are not allowed to become priests, and same-sex couples are not permitted to marry in the Catholic Church. Pope said, quote, "There are laws that regulate life inside the church. According to the legislation, they cannot partake in some sacraments," end quote. According to Reuters, Pope Francis added that ministers in the church must accompany all people, including those not conforming to the rules of the religious organization, with the patience and love of a mother. In his 10 years as leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis has sought to move the institution forward and create a more welcoming environment for groups traditionally excluded, particularly LGBTQ plus people. He has made reaching out to the LGBTQ plus community a key tenet of his papacy. However, the pontiff has had to strike a fine balance by appeasing both liberal and conservative members of the church and not rocking the boat too much. I mean, I give him credit that over the years, in his 10 years as the Pope, that he has brought up and has allowed LGBTQ plus issues to come up, and he's taken a more liberal stance. But I also know that he's under a lot of pressure from a very conservative majority of the Catholic Church that does not agree to allowing LGBTQ plus or women into the church in the way that we would all like to see it. So, yeah.
It makes you wonder if he's just trying to play to the masses.
And what do you think? Is he?
I think he's trying to follow what he thinks is morally right while also trying to follow what he thinks Jesus would think is right.
And I also think it's one thing to say that, but when people start attending church, is it inclusive? Are they being looked at? Are they being stared at? Or is the rest of the congregation apt to have LGBTQ plus people be there?
You know, the answer to that is no. Yes. There's fewer Catholics today than there were 5 years ago. There were fewer Catholics 5 years ago than there were 10 years before that. This is a continual move of what is happening in an overall, I won't say rejection of faith. I'm a person of faith. I'm not rejecting my faith. I'm rejecting the organizational structure that I don't agree with. And that's what's happening. Any particular thoughts about the Pope?
No, I'm not religious.
He's got a nice hat.
Yeah, he has a very
got a nice hat. Yeah, he is the most progressive, but I'm not. I don't.
You're not a big fan. You know, there are two things in this story that I think are really interesting. The Pope is code signaling over and over again. I've been talking about this. I'm hearing him. I'm hearing the Pope send all of these secret Illuminati messages out about what he thinks about LGBT and embracement changes. And we need to follow in the path of the love of a mother. We have reported at Queer News Tonight so many times in family rejections of the coming out experience that overwhelmingly the first family member that embraces is the mother. Even if she is shocked about their child being LGBT or trans, etc., the mother is the first in the family structure to generally embrace their LGBT child. And the Pope is saying the same thing. We should do what a mother does in family, which is to embrace. It's code signaling.
Yeah.
But to Evan's wondering where he got that information from.
Yeah. Okay.
But to Evan's point, it's great to say it. But you need to have something change, and we really haven't seen anything change other than his words. He's not pushing anyone within the church to actually make real change when it comes down to the local community. And if they're losing people because of the way they're speaking and not including them in the organization, at some point something has to give. And losing members, you know, they've got their own.
And the same is true for the Southern Baptist Convention. The same is true for Methodists. The same is, you know, we could go on and on. The other thing that I think of that's really interesting about the Pope is I think about the famous Whoopi Goldberg line in Ghost, "Girl, you in danger," because the Pope has this Illuminati.
Don't ever do
him.
that again.
Has this Illuminati.
You in danger, girl.
Yeah, that's it. You did it much better than I did. He's got this radical conservative in the church and the hierarchy around him going, okay, you're our Pope, but we could knock you off at any moment.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And he can only do so much. And when you consider that, overwhelming majorities of the American Catholic community, for example, embrace the LGBTQ community. The overwhelming majority of Catholics in America support LGBT marriage, for example, as one issue.
But who's in charge? Old white men.
That's the thing.
It's just like
if you're going to have
U.S. Senate or anything,
year-old popes and cardinals and bishops, this is what you're going to get. And is it like any other structure in America? Oh yeah, radical GOP.
Right.
Isn't it the same thing? They're making decisions on women's health care, on LGBT, on trans rights that are not popular even in the GOP. But this Illuminati that's controlling the structure.
And I would say it's more than just the GOP, because we've got all these older people still in power. I can't think of her name right now. Who's the one in California right now?
Nancy Pelosi?
No. The one who's still in office but doesn't know who she is.
Oh, yeah, the senator. It catches me by surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, give it time to give it up. Let somebody else in with some youth and vigor, and you know, you had your moment in the sun.
Along the way.
Evan, you ever thought about being the Pope?
Oh, goodness me.
Right. All right.
Next, let's clear up health. Studies show that conversion therapy leads to suicide attempts in trans youth. Prior research has been unable to tease out cause and effect between health outcomes and gender-affirming care like hormone therapy or gender-denying interventions like conversion therapy, largely because of lack of broad data or inappropriate control group. The Conversation team, along with other researchers, studied data from the 2015 U.S. Transgender Survey, which includes responses from over 27,000 trans adults across the nation. They compared people who initiated an intervention with those who initiated the same intervention 1 year later. They found that over 40% of young adults living in family environments that are unsupportive of their gender identity attempted suicide by the age of 18. The analysis also showed that hormone replacement therapy significantly improves the mental health of trans youths in comparing differences in suicide attempts between trans youths who started HRT a year apart from each other. They both found that both groups experienced similar increases in suicide attempts over the 5 years before initiating treatment, but experienced a significant drop the year they started treatment. Overall, initiating hormone therapy led to 14.4% reduction in attempting suicide for trans youth. There was a 13.8% increase in attempted suicide within the first year of conversion therapy, and a 47.5% increase in running away from home. Well, I want to say I have a lot to say about this being transgender. You know, every day at Trans Inclusive Group, I receive emails from the Crisis Fund with parents and trans youth asking for resources and things of that nature, trying to see, you know, what resources they can get to help their children. And I find it so beautiful when parents reach out and they're gung-ho into helping their trans kids. I used to work at a facility in Wilton Manors that provided hormone therapy. Now, we didn't provide it to youth, but as young as 18. And I remember how those young adults would come in with their parents, and their parents were so supportive, and they had their head held high. And it just, I remember so many of them telling me about their experiences and how it felt to have their parents support them. And those people who parents supported them, like 4 and 5 years later, I know of 10 of the trans patients that I just had who are out and they're in college, and one of them is getting ready to be a doctor, and they're just positive individuals. They're thriving. Whereas I definitely can tell you stories of people who have attempted suicide because their parents were not supportive and were not able to start their hormone therapy. You know, I can use myself for an example. I mean, I started hormone therapy at 18 years old. Now, my parents weren't all that supportive then. They eventually came in line, but you know, hey.
But it's scary for those who don't have that support, and I would suspect that there's a larger group of people that don't get that support, especially when you get outside of a bigger city, and you get into middle America, where the lack of education, lack of life experience, and this kid doesn't know where the resources are to go to. And we look at our state right now, you know, with our current governor, and what that means to trans kids that are trying to find their way, that are being told that they're bad or evil or wrong because they're different. And there's no place for them in our state. And I know of 2 gay couples that have moved out of the state because they have what they believe to be is going to be trans kids. And one of them, their daughter's only like 7 years old. They don't want her to be in this environment, because if she does decide, you know, and they're letting her have her freedom, but she went to camp last year and just went by the name of Joe, you know, and so nobody in camp knew she cut her hair short, and they're letting her do her thing, but they don't feel it was safe to stay here, and they're currently living in Texas, or to live in Texas, and they moved to California because they don't want her to have that bad experience.
Yeah.
And lack of resources. We don't have the resources here either anymore.
It's not just that, but the statistics don't lie. They're showing the absolute truth. And I know this from a personal experience. If I didn't start HRT when I did, I'm not sure that I would be alive today. So the lawmakers have to stop picking and choosing what statistics they want to show and what statistics that they want to utilize when presenting these to the higher ups, because that's what they want, but it's not the truth.
And Evyn, I'd be curious, because it had to have scared you when our governor said, we're going to stop treatment. Like, it was that threat to stop it.
It did.
While you had already started. And what does that do to your body? What does that do to your mental health?
I went literally, I was almost crying. I literally was like so angry. I went to my mom, I was like, we're moving. And she was understanding. She was like, if that does end up happening, we are moving. Because like, I'm fortunate enough to have parents.
That's amazing.
I am fortunate enough to have parents that like do support me and that will pick up and move just to keep me on hormone treatment because they do understand the science and they do understand the research and how valuable
it must be incredibly stressful to think about your life on a countdown clock. You've got 24 months approximately. You got to run the clock out to get to 18 and become an adult to principally be exempted from what is trying to be done. I'm curious in terms of this story. First off, you talked about statistics. I got lost in your statement because were you talking about COVID-19 pandemic? Were you talking about masks? What bad science were we talking about that they're not going to, I'm making a joke about, they do the same thing on everything that has to do with science. I'm curious from your standpoint, how do you get through 16 years old on HRT? How do you get through, and your friends that are in similar situations, how do you get through a week with concentrating on just living the life that all 16-year-old kids, please forgive me in wording, should be doing, that you shouldn't be worrying about existence? How do you get through?
I guess it's just focusing on the little wins that we do have, on all the moments that we do get to celebrate, you know? Like, I got my first job. I was able to start driving. I have more facial hair than I did 6 months ago. Those are the little wins that we can celebrate until we end up maybe one day not being able to keep doing these hormones and that are life-saving.
Yeah. And Evyn, I'm also curious in terms of the reporting here. First off, I slap out at the idea. 27,000 people participate in this study. It is a gigantic study for the trans community, and their conclusion that first 40% have tried to commit suicide, and there was a 15% reduction just being able to participate in hormone replacement therapy. For you, when you hear those statistics, are you shocked by the 40% suicide attempt?
Not at all.
Yeah. Without being too personal, is that something that your life has thought about through this process?
I can say that it did bring me a lot of anxiety. I was having a lot of panic attacks. And when you're in that sort of like downward spiral, it is easy to get sucked into it. So it's important to get into services that can provide you with the correct, the correct support, and do whatever you can to support those people because they're in a critical state. And not just that, but by showing your support to that one person, you're also showing your support to everyone else.
I find it interesting too, because between you, Adrianna, and you, Evyn, your parents played a role in it. Like, I don't know whether your parents would have moved out of the state or they would have just said, suck it up, you know, and you'll get to it when you turn 18. And you, on the other hand, have a parents that say, this is important enough that we're going to move if we need to. And to give you, that's a very special set of parents that are willing to uproot, find new jobs, find new friends, buy a new home, sell and give everything up because they honor and respect you enough that this is so important because they know what the long term is. They know that there could be a negative impact, you know, when it comes to suicide or whatever it might be. But, you know, both of you coming from, it's interesting, both of you coming from a different type of family, your perspectives of how you got through it to that point, because you had to survive to 18 to be able to do what you really wanted to do, and that could not have been easy. And, you know, in your case, your parents are willing to say, don't hold out to 18. We're going to make this happen now.
Well, I think I come from a different time. I'm 48 years old. So when I started to transition, it was, I guess, 1995 when I first thought about it. So it definitely wasn't how it is now. It wasn't as open. I hadn't even seen a transgendered person or knew a transgendered person at that age. I didn't know I had those options.
We didn't have Google, girl.
We didn't have Google. We didn't have Google. But eventually when I, researched the information, other people let me know, that I could go to the doctor. I had to do all that by myself.
Yeah.
I found that
One final thought, we've got to move on to Amy, but this is a unique opportunity. I appreciate both of you sharing your stories and sharing your opinion and observation, and really all of us at the table. But the issue is it gives us a unique opportunity to make a couple of connections to the story. This is a very important study survey on the number of trans people that were studied exhaustively over comparison year over years, and the effect that conversion therapy has on them, and the access of hormone replacement therapy to them, and how it affects suicidal thoughts. Then we have the opportunity to talk about, from a service provider, what you do at Trans Inclusive Group so brilliantly, and from your experience as a 16-year-old junior getting ready to start your junior year in high school. For the LGBTQ community, really one of the difficulties, perhaps, I'm not putting words in either Amy or Glen's mouth, but in my mouth, probably they would have some similar observation. It's hard for the LGBTQ community to quantify impact on the trans community. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep this in front of our LGBTQ community. This is tangible consequence. This is tangible consequence. We are not academically fighting over just rights. We are fighting for people's lives.
Absolutely.
Now, next, let's queer up health. The Red Cross has relaxed donation restrictions for gay men.
From all of these empty beds that donors aren't needed. They're seeing about 300 donors a day, but they're working to double that.
The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center hopes the new FDA guidelines will bring in new donors. In 2015, the FDA made changes that would become more inclusive. Gay and bisexual men were allowed to donate blood if they had abstained from sexual intercourse for at least 12 months. In the last several years and during the public health crisis, requirements were further reduced to 3 months of no sexual intercourse.
On Monday, the Red Cross, the organization that provides about 40% of U.S. blood and blood components, started using a more inclusive, risk-based individual assessment to determine whether someone is eligible to give blood, regardless of their sexual orientation. Back when Cody Kinsley was in high school, he was so dedicated to boosting the U.S. blood supply that he helped run blood drives. But Monday was the first time as an adult that Kinsley, now the Secretary of North Carolina's Department of Health and Human Services, was allowed to donate blood. Kinsley is gay. Although the rules have loosened some, for nearly 40 years, guidance from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration banned most gay men from donating blood, even if they personally posed no threat to the blood supply. Over the years, blood banks became better able to screen for HIV among gay and bisexual men, but the FDA policy stayed the same. Rather than screen people out for risky behavior, it screened people for who they were. Initially, gay and bisexual men who had sex with men were banned from donating for life. Over the years, the ban eased a little, but still excluded most gay men from donating. So this just brings me right back. I'm an oldie. Sitting at this table, it brings me back to the 80s and when maybe the late 70s, whenever it just AIDS started and we started losing people, and then none of us could donate, even gay women too. They asked us what our sexual preference was, and if it was gay, we could not donate blood, even to help our brothers primarily.
Well, and I'm curious, this story, is it triggering for you? I mean, you've done so much work. Fundraising, philanthropy, the actual in the trenches for HIV/AIDS. This story is it triggering for you in any way?
It's triggering, and there's also, I don't know if you've ever heard of Jordan Eagles. He's a gentleman, he's in New York City, and he created the blood mirror. And it's basically where he's taken blood from gay people, some of them very prominent, and he's basically put it between, they're like 8-foot panels, and they're all pressed together. And it's a statement about us not being able to give blood and how many people could potentially have been helped had everyone been able to be able to give blood, because they there's mechanisms to filter out bad blood, but to make a general statement that anyone who's gay, who's having sex with somebody of the same sex, not be able to have that opportunity to help other people, there's no good reason for it, because a sex worker can give blood where a gay couple can't. And like, where is the equity in that? So it is without a doubt a trigger to, and it's great to see that there's some relief in that, but there's still some restrictions still placed on whether, you have not had sex within, 6 months or whatever. And it's archaic that we're having to deal with this. And it does trigger because it's another stereotype against a group of people without really having any.
Is it going too far, or is it far enough to say that in let's say the last 4 or 5 years, that it's still a representation of homophobia? Mm-hmm. That in decision making, it's homophobic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Evyn, I'm curious, at 16, what do you think about a blood ban in terms of donating blood?
I don't really understand the concept of it. If you're going to put a blood ban, put it on unprotected sex, period. That's it. Don't put it on specific gender. Don't put it on specific sex. Just put it on the act itself being unprotected with a partner whom you don't know and whom was not tested.
Yeah.
Or just take the blood and test the blood. It's good or it's not. It's a fungible good, for Christ's sake.
Right. They test it anyway to see if you've got blood deficiency or you have cancer cells or whatever it might be, to eliminate you. So what is the difference?
And that's fine. Eliminate me because I have something, scientifically, a scientific issue with my blood, not my lifestyle.
Yeah. Before we move to Evyn, can we make one note of cheering North Carolina's Secretary Kinsley?
Yes.
What a moment it must have been for him to get onto that bed and be able to donate blood when he's had a lifetime commitment to the LGBTQ community, and his interest in Red Cross and blood donation and the value of blood, to finally be able to, since the 1980s, to go, okay, this is over. Just congratulations to North Carolina's Secretary Kinsley. You've made the entire gay community proud of what you did in your life.
Yep. Now let's queer up entertainment. China bans rainbow clothes at pop concert in apparent LGBTQ+ crackdown. Beijing concert goers say that they were prevented from displaying rainbow imagery at a pop singer's performance on Saturday in a sign of increasing tightening on LGBTQ+ expression in China. Fans attending a concert by Taiwanese singer Shang Hu-mei, better known by her stage name Aimee, say they were prevented from wearing shirts with rainbows on them inside the Cadillac Arena in Beijing. A person who wrote about the concert in China's Instagram-style social media platform said a security guard at the venue asked them to turn his shirt inside out as a rainbow had been drawn on the front. Another post, a person said they were stopped by security because their shirt changed colors based on reflective lighting. A fan named Kang Kang posted that he was asked by security to change out of a shirt with a rainbow print to black clothing provided by guards. He told Bloomberg News that the security guards wouldn't elaborate on why the t-shirt wasn't allowed. Aimee's management, her Chinese concert organizer, and the Cadillac Arena did not respond to the request for comment by Bloomberg. An official at the Beijing Cultural and Tourism Bureau, which approved the weekend shows, told the New House via phone that the Bureau was only in charge of vetting the eligibility of concert organizers. I don't even know what to say. Turning a blind eye is not just an active participation in homophobia, it's showing them that it's okay.
But why would this be shocking to anybody? It's China.
That's
the biggest thing, that the fact that this is a story, because it's not shocking that they'd pull a rainbow off of anybody that doesn't fit into one of the boxes they consider acceptable. So to me, this is not really a shocking story. It's more of like, hey, this is what continues to happen around the world, and it's not right, but it should not be shocking to anybody.
That's true.
Don't you wonder in what they were doing at that concert, asking them to wear the shirt inside out, what it was about the colors that were so dangerous to their society to do that.
But they still let them in. So they didn't object to if they were LGBT. They didn't object to them being there. They objected to the symbolism of wearing something that might support it. Come on in as long as you don't wear that shirt that changes colors. Come on in as long as you don't have the rainbow visible. Come on in as long as you wear security's black. And you can let them. Like, was it being televised that they would show a symbol of a...
It's interesting to me because it's an indication of understanding. I've been to China many times. It's an indication of how far a powerful, ultra-conservative, they're communists, but the fascist mentality will go to protect what they think is good for the state. Meanwhile, in the last 2 years, they had millions of people in Shanghai protesting the policies that the Xi government had on COVID-19 and the lockdowns, which were far more dangerous in society than the little queer people that are going to wear a
There's no danger
t-shirt.
from the little queer people. Because they even put it in that same sentence is much more dangerous.
Yes, right.
Like, there is no danger.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
It's not even the people, it's the rainbow itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
I don't even know what kind of rainbow shirt they had on. Maybe they weren't queer. Maybe
Maybe
they
it was
just
a
like
JoJo
little
Siwa shirt.
rainbow
Right,
shirts or
exactly.
something. I mean,
Or maybe it was a Wizard of Oz shirt. I'm a big fan of Judy Garland.
yeah, exactly.
It makes you wish what we have, makes you feel bad about for them, and then think about what we have going on here is nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
But if we allow ours to continue this way, we could end up like them.
Yeah.
I
Did you
agree.
just say Ron DeSantis she? Okay. All right. All right.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, now we're going to look at the stories this week from out South Florida.
This week in Out South Florida, powered by Queer News Tonight. I'm Out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. In this week's issue, development. Discussion about Alibi Plaza is ready to restart, and a proposed hotel has a lot of work to do before they can even think about breaking ground. Also, hundreds of thousands of Broward County students can't afford back-to-school basics. Now the Pride Center is stepping up to help. And support your favorite restaurant, bartender, TV personality, and more. Nominations are open for Out South Florida's Your Choice Awards. I'm John Hayden. Those stories and more in Out South Florida, on stands now, and always updated online.
Well, now we finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the USA View. Gay Louisiana pediatrician leaves state over anti-LGBTQ plus laws. One of Louisiana's few doctors specializing in pediatric heart conditions is leaving the state after the legislature passed a variety of bills aimed at restricting rights for LGBTQ+ people. Dr. Jay Kleinman, who is gay, told WDSU that he and his husband had planned to retire in New Orleans, but now feels like the anti-LGBTQ+ legislation passed by the legislature has made the state a hostile place for families like his. In June, state lawmakers passed 3 bills targeting LGBTQ+ people. Governor John Bel Edwards, a Democrat, vetoed all 3 bills, but last month the Republican-dominated legislature overturned his veto of a bill that will ban transition-related medical care, including puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgery for minors starting January 1st, 2024.
Right here in New Orleans. What would be your message to lawmakers watching your story, if you could talk to them?
I think lawmakers need to understand the ramifications of the bills that they put forward.
And while family memories are now stuffed into boxes and the walls of his home will soon be empty, he hopes his story shows the impact that these type of bills have for families all across the country. What would be your response to someone on the other end of this issue saying you have the right to stay?
They've never had to look their children in the eye and explain to them that the state that they love and the state that they've grown up in has tried their hardest to pass laws against our family.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Pop Culture Museum removes images of J.K. Rowling from Harry Potter exhibit. J.K. Rowling has been removed from a Harry Potter exhibit at Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture due to her views seen as transphobic, hateful, and divisive. In a blog post published in March, the museum's project manager, Chris Moore, who is also transgender, slammed Rowling's anti-trans rhetoric. Rowling was previously inducted into the museum's Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame. But amid the controversy, the museum removed any mentions of Rowling in its fantasy. Worlds of Myth and Magic Gallery, which still includes memorabilia from the Harry Potter films.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. There are only a few days left to get your early bird tickets for Pride Fest. Pride Fest is a South Florida LGBTQ+ festival celebrating the music, food, and spirit of Caribbean culture in a safe space for the LGBTQ+ community and their allies. The Pride Fest will be at Richardson Historic Park and Nature Preserve in Wilton Manors on Saturday, August 12th. The event offers you a chance to become a part of a unique celebration and stand by the community while having some fun. The general admission and VIP tickets for the festival are already online for sale now, and the festival is about to be sold out. Hurry, as early bird pricing for tickets is only available until Friday, August 11th. Go to pridefest.lgbt to buy your tickets now.
LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up health. LGBTQ+ and women's veterans speak out against lack of appropriate care at VA hospitals. Women veterans are less likely to go to Veterans Affairs hospitals for health care due to harassment, stigma, and a lack of resources and services. Lindsay Church, a 38-year-old trans non-binary Navy veteran, said they have dealt with a patient advocate who kept misgendering them, a security guard who laughed at them when they voiced safety concerns, and once was even harassed by a VA staff member when they tried to use the bathroom. Many women and LGBTQ+ veterans have long spoken out about harassment and unique obstacles to care at VA hospitals. A 2019 study found that 1 in 4 women veterans who routinely go to VA primary care clinics reported inappropriate or unwanted comments or behaviors by male veterans or VA employees.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up courts. Ohio school trans-inclusive bathroom policy upheld by federal court. In a landmark decision, a federal judge in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Ohio has dismissed a lawsuit challenging Bethel Local School District's policy of allowing transgender students to use communal restrooms aligning with their gender identity. The lawsuit was initially launched by a group of parents and students who saw an order mandating the school district to bar transgender students from using communal restrooms that corresponded with their gender. The American Civil Liberties Union and the ACLU of Ohio joined the case in January 2023 to represent a transgender student's rights. In a decisive move, Judge Newman dismissed all of the plaintiffs' federal claims, effectively ending the case. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience, watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Adrianna Tender, Glen Weinzimer, Amy McGrotty, and Evyn Almanzar. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you good night. We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.